So our objective and getting inside the buyer's expectations is to discover something about their buying decision, not just who they are, because that's sort of obvious, but discover something about their buying decision that will allow us to differentiate, to win more business, because we've identified the markets where we should do business. We've identified the buyer's questions. We've figured out how we can answer those questions. And we've stopped wasting our time and energy on activities and marketing efforts that are really going to lead us into the tiger's jaws. Now, frankly, I don't know what that tiger's expectations were, but it was definitely not a match for my capabilities. Okay, so once we've decided that we need buying insights, let's talk about how we're going to get there from here. And this is sort of the bad news part, because it isn't as easy as just looking at your marketing automation solutions or going out and looking at maybe how people are searching on Google for you. What you need to do in order to really understand what your buyers are thinking is you need to talk to them. You need to listen to them. You need to hear their stories. And the beauty of this is if you're a bit curious and you want to spend some time learning how to ask questions in an unscripted format, you can actually do these interviews yourself, or you can engage someone else to do them for you. But the principles around these interviews are that you want to find people who have recently made the buying decision that you want to influence. So these are people who have a story to tell you because they have just been through this experience, like we talked about at the opening to this presentation, of having to try to find a perfect match for their needs. And you can get these people on the phone and you can ask them to tell the story. And I've given you just sort of the 3 parts here on the slide about this interview. So the only question that's scripted is this one. It goes like this. It's the very beginning of the interview. So take me back to the day, Greg, when you first decided to make this buying decision, when you first decided to invest in a new college for your kids, and tell me what happened. And then you go silent, and that's hard because, we all want to fill in the silence, but I really want you to just think about getting in front of people and asking them that question. Take me back to the day when you first decided to look for a new car, a new capital investment in the area of CRM or marketing automation or industrial automation, whatever the investment is. Finding people who have made that decision. You can find these people through your win-loss list. You can use professional recruiters to find these people for you. And then you listen to them talk about that moment in time and talk about why they didn't move sooner. Because for me as a sales and marketing professional, this is my key question. What keeps buyers from moving sooner? We have all these great benefits we can deliver. Why are they sitting on the fence? Well, if I get in front of a real buyer and I ask them about that day and then I walk them back just a bit, they can tell me about all the things that prevented them from moving sooner. And they can tell me what that compelling event was, what that trigger or driver was that got them off the fence and got them to take action. And then as we walk these buyers through their story, and we do this ever so slowly, we get them to tell us what they did first to understand their options. Did they go talk to their peers? Did they go online? Did they talk to a consultant? What did they do? Did they go out on LinkedIn? Did they go to some groups? Did they go to a conference? And of course, this is giving us insight into where we need to be in order to reach buyers at the moment in time when they're starting to think about which companies they should consider. And as we do that, we can probe on everything they were thinking about at that point in time, all the expectations that they had, and how they were evaluating the companies that they did decide to include in that initial consideration set. Then, as we continue to listen to the buyer's story, we can ask them how they decided which companies to include or which solutions or which services or products they decided to include or exclude from consideration. How did they decide which things they should continue to evaluate as time progressed. Because if your buyer has a long consideration cycle, they're starting with a universe of options and they're gradually narrowing that down. And as you go through each part of that buyer's story and you ask them to talk to you about how they came to a conclusion that one company was better than another, you're finding out what matters to them. And this is what we really want to know. We're finding out about their expectations. Now, the critical aspect of this interview, and the reason we don't script this interview, is because we have to probe on the answers they give us. You know, one of the favorite ways to do research is to do surveys. And you know, with automation, this is so easy to do. You know, we can just go to SurveyMonkey or, you know, build an online survey and we can send out the questions and we can get answers and it's all presented in this nice, neat report. The problem with surveys is that we only get answers to the questions that we ask. And we don't have a chance to probe on the answers. And so here's the problem. The buyer's first answer to any question you ask them will always be something you know. And this is why a lot of research produces conclusions that we go, oh, well, that was kind of interesting. It validated what I already thought, but I didn't really learn anything. So to learn something, we have to do, we call this qualitative research. We have to really go out and talk to people. And if you have someone on your team who has a journalism background, or maybe you yourself has this role, then you understand, or if you watch journalists at work, you've sort of seen them, you know, they'll go in with an agenda, but what they're really doing is listening for the answer that the buyer's a little emotional about, or the person they're interviewing is a little emotional about, or that they're interested in, and then they're just digging a little deeper. So tell me more about that. So what does that mean? And this is where you get to the insight. So I could talk for hours about that, but the key is that this is achievable. This is something you can do. And that once you do these interviews, and we want you to have them recorded and transcribed so that you retain every quote, every single thing your buyers say. Because the magic is in reviewing those quotes, sharing those quotes with your team, and actually capturing the buyer's voice around the things that affect their choices, affect their decisions. And once we do that, we're going to be able to see patterns in the responses. So we're going to probably interview 8, 10, 12 people. Maybe if we think there's differences between different types of buyers, we want to interview 6 or 8 people in each of those different categories. And then we're going to look for patterns. And I'm going to give you a way to look throughout those interviews for the key findings that are really critical to your sales and marketing decisions.